Hi, everybody. Welcome to Badass Women's Wednesdays. I'm here with my co-author, Cheryl Martin Goncalves. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. It's a Wednesday.
Yes, it is Wednesday. Oh my God, it's almost the end of August. I just thought of that right now.
It
I'm like,
is. It is. It's
yeah, it's less. Well, actually, about a month till fall time.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
good with that. I like the fall.
Do you? I actually like it. I've said this at work a couple of times. I've had some coworkers saying I don't like you at the moment. Why are you remembering? I'm like, well,
Teach their own.
exactly. I'm like, we're in Canada. We get 4 seasons. Not much we can do about it.
Yep. I think it's good.
when so, Cheryl, I'm going to start off today by asking you, can you tell us, those viewing, a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes. So let's start professional because this is part of what I do. Professionally, I am a master practitioner and coach of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, and quantum change process. And I do some soul work too, soul genesis with the Akashic Records.
Mhm.
But what does that mean? It means that I actually work with your unconscious mind to resolve past issues that you've been struggling through. Sometimes you get that stuck feeling when you're trying to move forward with things, or you get caught up in past trauma or emotions. So I actually work with the deeper part of you, the unconscious part that most counselors and all that traditional therapy isn't able to access. So that's what I do, is help you access those things so we can actually create some change and move you forward. So that's
Wow.
what I do professionally.
Mhm.
I am a mom to a 12-year-old spunky girl who loves anime.
Cool.
um, I am a passionate lover of the environment and self-development. Love self-development, always working on myself.
Cool. Very neat. And guys, Cheryl and I she did I think it was an NLP session with me.
Yeah, we did it. We did like a really short little phone session.
Yes,
You were hitting your stuff.
there we go, exactly. And it was really cool. It really helped. Whatnot. It was, yeah. So
Yeah. So
really,
so basically what we did there was I think what we did was a phobia release. I can't remember exactly because it was really on the fly, on the go. Get on the phone with me.
yeah. I was like, guys, I'm feeling panicky, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Mia, come out and just call me. And I think we chatted for what,
Yeah.
about half
Just
an hour, 45
yeah.
minutes.
I don't even think it was that
Oh,
long.
well, maybe not, but it worked because I
Yeah.
felt more grounded and connected after that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Cheryl, what made you decide to become an author and write in for career?
I didn't ever even want to be an author. But it came, I guess, towards the end of 2017, so just last year. uh, I was finding that because of I'd been through a domestic violence situation, and had worked on myself so much and worked with a coach, and was able to get past all of the trauma, and not just, being in the relationship, but all of the scars, damage, behavioral patterns that stick with you, the panic attacks and all that. Um, Having done all that work myself, I was actually ended up talking to in my business, but also just socially, a lot of people in the similar situations, like either just coming out of it or still stuck in the emotional and mental trauma that sticks with you. So instead of wearing out my voice talking to one on one, the opportunity to tell my story showed up, and I thought, well, that's what I'm doing already, and how many more people could I reach by putting it in this amazing book with all these other amazing women telling their stories?
Yeah.
It's called Amplification, and it's an amazing thing when you work with other people. It doesn't just multiply, it actually amplifies. So think exponential growth.
Yeah.
So my story will now make it out to all of M's friends, and the people that she knows, and her story will do the same with mine, and then all the other authors. So that's why I thought it was a great idea. People need to hear that there's solutions, right? And there's healing.
Yeah, and that you can heal from a situation, you can grow, you can change the situation.
Yeah.
That you have that inner strength to change the situation.
Exactly.
And on a personal note, I come from a similar background for those viewing as Cheryl, very, very similar. And that pretty much the same reason she decided to write in the book is why I decided to write in the book.
Yeah.
So many people go through, I think, domestic violence in their life. And it's not being talked about as much.
No.
And whatnot. And a lot of people, and I know I felt this way personally, feel stuck. So
yeah, and alone,
ashamed.
You know, it was really hard for me. It was the feeling of not being believed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Because I think for the longest time, I didn't believe it myself. Right? That's the whole denial factor where you don't act. You're unsure. Is this really what's going on? Like.
Yeah.
And then having the world not believe you, and it's never everyone. It's like specific pieces of, you know, a community. Like for me in particular, it was the police not believing me, and the court system, even though there was all these other places that did believe me.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. You have to have, I guess, tons and tons of evidence and documents for even them to really consider or put in safety measures. And I know just from talking with others that it can be a very scary thing when you're not getting that additional protection and your safety is at risk, which can be a big change because manipulators are very good at distorting reality.
Yeah, they can be very charismatic.
And whatnot. So and when regards for yourself not believing it, I questioned it, and I was 20 at the time, and I thought, well, you know, he only did this once. It's not really abuse if it just happened once or twice, if it was that inconsistent. And that was a huge mistake on my thinking.
It wasn't a mistake.
It wasn't a mistake.
You just didn't know any better at the time.
Better, right? That's a better word. I didn't know.
Nice reframe, Cheryl.
There we go. Perfect. I didn't know any better, and that's one of the key things. Somebody lays a hand on you. Somebody emotionally does that once, twice. It will escalate. It normally does. Unless they really want to change, but then again, that's not their call. That's not your call. Up to them, and you need to do what's best for you. But usually, it will escalate to the point where it gets consistent.
Yeah, it can. What people have, it's not really commonly understood how abusive people or abusers think, and unfortunately, it's not really a matter of them just saying they're going to change. There's a lot of inner work, deep down inner work that needs to happen. And it's not something you can do on your own.
No. You
really need a proper professional that works with your belief systems and your values and not emotions. And in terms of the abuser, not in terms of someone who's been abused. This is about the abuser. But it's an area that I've actually done a lot of research into lately to try and understand it, because now that this book is out there, I'm having more and more women coming to me, and people need to understand where the behavior comes from. And because even though we're in that situation, there's always some sort of like the twistingness, the gaslighting. We're told it's our fault over and over again. And so at some point we actually start internalizing that blame.
Yep.
And then starting to take responsibility for the other person's changing.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, no one's going to change unless they choose to themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm currently studying social work right now, but with
Yay!
work, yay. And within that, I studied criminology, criminal psychology, for the exact reason of why
Mm-hmm.
people, why abusers would think like that and whatnot. And as you said, there's a lot of inner works. There's a lot of trauma that they've experienced. There's various reasons of why somebody would do that, and not one person is the same.
No.
And I think when it comes to dealing with the recipients or the people who are, the victims and on the receiving end of abusers, it's really hitting home that all of their actions have nothing to do with them personally.
Yeah.
With that other person, you did nothing wrong in that
Yes.
state.
And unfortunately, that's the opposite of what you're told by the abuser, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's you made me do this. You made me do this. You did this. It was your actions that caused me to do this. You walking out made me do this. Whatever.
That's one thing that I tend to say to anyone that I'm talking to, because it's an important thing to notice. But notice if that person that you suspect of being an abuser, whether it's someplace that you've been in the past or the person that you're with now or someone you know in another relationship, is notice how they treat other people other than the person that they're abusing. Because
yeah.
once you realize that an abuser does not react that way at their workplace, if it's a relationship, like a domestic violence, like a relationship abuse, they do not act that way with their boss, with their friends. They don't act that way in public. It's not an anger issue. It's actually a choice that certain people are targeted, like often your partner and sometimes your children. There are some people that can be abusive at workplaces too, but it's actually a choice. So if you start noticing, take note of how they behave towards different relationships, then you'll have more of a clue of whether this is somebody with an anger management mental disorder or some sort of issue that needs to be resolved that way, or if it's an abusive, because abuse is choice.
Exactly.
It's a choice they make.
So one thought that came into my head a while back is, if they're an asshole all around to everybody, usually they have an anger management issue.
Yes.
So like if you see them being an asshole to like their boss, to their mom, to you, that's a personality thing mostly of the time, and
or someone who has a lot of stuff they need to work on.
you work on, you know what I mean, chill pill, something. But if somebody is targeting you, they will treat you differently than they will treat everybody else, and it will be different ways. So they'll treat their friends with respect and whatnot, but then when you're at home and they're treating you, that's a big warning sign. Get out.
And it also leads to that. That's where it leads to all of that uncertainty. Is this really happening? Because he's so nice. Everyone else, he's so great. Exactly. I can't believe that he would do that. Well, no, because he doesn't show you that.
No. And in my case, I had a big thing with that. I didn't think anybody would believe me because he was such a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's so common.
Yeah. And I happened to record email conversations or keep something, and I managed to, and it showed people who kind of were in doubt. Oh, yeah, good. You're okay. You did the right thing. And some people realized it from the get-go, because they were that perceptive. But and so that whole, are they going to believe me, nice guy? Because people who are like that are very charismatic, and
the majority of them are.
Yeah, And
it's not even that there's a type. There are, just from the research that I've done, there are abusers out there that are shy and quiet.
that's true.
It's really look at the behavior. Look at the behavior, how they treat you as the victim, just to propose it as that way, versus how they treat other men, how they treat their kids, how they behave in public versus behind closed doors.
Yeah. And that's the biggest.
Yeah.
That's their biggest.
Yeah.
And another point is not all abusers. Some people who are abusive don't always realize that that's a pattern too. I do want to point that out. So
No.
not my case, but they knew. But there is some people who don't have that emotional insight, I guess is the right word, or insight.
Yeah.
Realize that what they're doing is considered abuse. So I wanted to touch.
It's true. And especially if someone's been raised in a similar environment. I know in my case that was the case. And I think even now it's been like almost 25 years since we met. And he couldn't admit it to himself because it was a painful thing to realize that for all the efforts that he made, he still picked up those behaviors that he absolutely detested.
Yeah.
You know?
And it doesn't excuse the behavior on the behalf of the person.
No.
But it does, register understanding that some people grew up in that environment.
Right.
And they will naturally pick up, as you said,
it's the key I think though is when you do realize, or someone does point it out, it's your responsibility to really look at how you're behaving and what you're doing in your life and evaluate it. It's like that's what being an adult and caring about other people is all about, right? So
exactly. And we all, all of us, as you said, you were doing some, self-improvement.
Yeah. And the vast majority of people who've been in an abusive situation, whether it was, as they were growing up as kids or in a relationship, don't go on to become abuser themselves.
No.
It's not true. There are so many people who've been through that relationship who grow from it and develop amazing, healthy relationship and the behaviors to honor other people. Like, look at you and I, like, and we learn healthy boundaries. Like, no one is coming into my life again who's ever going to treat me that way.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And situation wise with, growing up and whatnot, there's some areas in my life where, they wouldn't be considered ideal. And I learned from a very early age that I did not want to take on certain things that I was exposed to.
Yeah.
So again, we can be raised in not so ideal environments and still come out loving, caring, strong, passionate people.
Absolutely.
So that. So Cheryl, I want to ask you, how was your experience as a first-time writer? What did you like about the process, and what did you find challenging?
Oh, wow. Okay, so given the topic that we're talking about and the personal story, it was kind of like an emotional dunk tank.
Okay.
Right?
Throw the ball in and you're going in,
right. You have to go back. We're telling our stories, and the way I wrote mine specifically was from the first person. So having that connection with my unconscious mind that I developed through my training was really helpful, because I was able to actually write the story firsthand as if I was right back in that moment, or those moments, the thoughts that was going through my head, the emotions, everything, how things felt in my body. But at the same time, because I had that skill, there was, a lot of realization and stuff. So I think it was both, you know, a blessing and a curse. And it's that growth, right? Growth is never comfortable. If it is, it's not growth.
Yeah.
So it was, I think the hardest part was going back and sort of experience it again.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I had to jump into any of that stuff with the tools I have. I did pretty well.
Yeah.
And I asked for help from other coaches when I was feeling too much stuff.
Yeah.
I made lots of phone calls those few weeks.
I need to put, yeah.
There was lots of phone calls to say, hey, someone help me with my stuff. But I think like the amount of growth that came out of it, and really, you know, when you have a story like we have where there's a lot of trauma and a lot of growth, you kind of want to tie it up with a little bow at some point,
Yeah.
and be done with it. In that it's not affecting who you are anymore. It's now a part of your story that you share with others so that they get inspired. So this was like tying it up with a bow.
Yeah. It's like, okay, put it underneath the bed and, you know.
Yeah, we're done with it. We're proud of what we've come out of it. But it's not who we are anymore.
Yeah. And for me, touching on how the process of writing and earlier, same thing. I wrote mine in the first person and would go right back into that situation where I was back in there, and you do go into, like, you go in through the motions again, like you feel like you're going through it, you go through that heartbreak. I know I listened to Beyonce's Broken Hearted Girl, and I did that after that time initially when it happened, and you go through it and you start remembering things and whatnot, but it really is a big healing process too. And you do call people. I called a few friends that knew I was doing it, and I'm going, guys, you know, I just need to talk and, you know, remind me, like, I'm definitely not in this situation again. You know what I mean? Like that, and for me, a grounding case. Okay, you're not there. You don't have to. You're not in the situation. This is not your current reality. You're just writing about it. So remember that. And I don't know about you, but I had to take breaks.
I don't know if I took breaks as avoided starting for a while.
There we go. You see, I started, stop.
Well, like I said, it's such a personal process, and I did some timeline therapy before I started writing, and then I had to do that was related to that was right before the book launch. I had to do before the book actually came out publicly, I had to do something called a parts integration.
What is that? That's cool.
Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so you know when sometimes you think a part of me wants to do this, but a part of me doesn't?
Yeah.
So there's actually your unconscious gets separated into these two parts that have different, usually opposite agendas. So it's like there's like an internal, like devil, you know, think devil and angel, but they're both actually fighting for the good of you for some reason. But
yeah, I had experience with an Oreo cookie the other day. Should I eat it?
Yeah, so I had this one part of me that wanted me to keep my voice shut, because in the past, not speaking and not talking about things kept me safe, right? When you're in an abusive relationship, sometimes you learn to kind of zip it. Because if you zip it, then you're not instigating anything. You're not, you know, poking the bear. And then there was the other part of me that's like, no, one, you have to heal. So it has to come out. And two, how are you going to help anybody if you don't do anything about it? So I had these two warring parts.
Yeah.
Both of them were looking out for me. So we did something called a parts integration, which is really cool NLP tool that kind of finds the common ground, and then you become unconsciously whole again. It's so cool.
That's cool. Oh, neat. Okay, we have to talk about that more later on. Really cool.
We talk about it later offline.
That's good. We will do that. Definitely. Okay, and I think we've kind of. So, what did you find most challenging? I think kind of a little bit on that.
I think it was the diving into things, You know, it's as much as I might, you know, speak the story out loud to other people. putting it out there on a public platform, and that's just a whole other step, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this: you're very brave for doing that.
And so are you. We're awesome. High five.
There we go. There we go. But and I've this, I've read your story as well, so I really do admire you, and I really do admire your work and what you're doing and your posts and whatnot. And guys, she's really awesome. And
Oh,
just
you're the best.
um so Cheryl, we've kind of touched in a little bit about this as well. What are
Mhm.
for our book? And by the way, peeps, if you did not know, we made international bestseller on our launch day. And I have it here, which means go get the book.
Yeah, totally.
And so, what are your hopes besides us, achieving that on our
Yeah,
launch?
we've totally touched on it. International bestseller was like the little cherry on top of the cupcake, because it wasn't the purpose.
No, it wasn't.
Like, on a personal level, the purpose of writing was for the healing, to put the story out there, to really, because when you're writing, you like you said, you come up with stuff that you forgot, and you start connecting things together, and you can really see the picture of what happened and why it happened and how far you've come when you're doing the writing process. On a purpose level, passion and purpose level, was to get it out there so that there are other people out there who need to read it. People who, might be in a similar situation or may have been in the past and don't realize that's why they're still feeling those panic attacks or those really low moods, is because the trauma is still trapped in your body. And traditional therapy doesn't quite address all of that stuff. And if you can find someone like me who practices that kind of stuff, that kind of work, and there's lots of other ways to do it, like hypnosis, and there's body work like Reiki. There's lots of ways to do it. Soul genesis, soul readings. There's so many other ways. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to continue looking over your shoulder every time you hear a loud noise. You don't have to jump every time the ex's name flashes across your phone. Like, I lived through that specific reaction for several years until I found this work. And honestly, that reaction was gone in 15 minutes of working in a certain context.
Yeah.
That's the kind of things that we can do. So to let people know that you don't have to stay where you are. And the other thing we talked about earlier was about family members and people who love people who are in an abusive situation, to really kind of be able to see the kind of thinking patterns and the thoughts and the emotions and the feelings that they're going through, and recognize that just leaving isn't nearly as easy as you think. It's a really complicated thing. The situation is basically, you can, whether you do something or whether you don't do something, you kind of get punished no matter what you do. So recognizing, and I call it holding space for the people in your life that are still trying to find their way out, and just continuing to be there in some capacity, as long as it's safe for you and you're not becoming a target or emotionally strung out because of it. But honoring them, because that's what my family had to do. I can't even tell you how many times someone said something or indicated something or gave me a look. It was brought up by most of the people who were close to me, and it wasn't until I hit the point where I was ready and where I recognized it that it changed.
And I think
Can you agree with that?
yeah, oh yeah. And we were talking about this earlier before we started. There's comes a point where the people ourselves. So in my personal case, it was me really seeing his manipulative behavior. We talked about projection.
Projection, yeah.
My boundaries, and And someone has said to me, somebody who is manipulative, if you assert your ground and your boundaries, stand your ground, they will accuse you of manipulating them, like accuse me of being the manipulator and playing the victim. Well, that's what he did, and that sealed the deal. And that was the clarity for me. And that was
Yeah.
really deciding factor that I let go, like totally let go. We'd broken up once before, and he still had that hold on me because, you know, I absolutely love you
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I did, and I went back, and I went back knowing what my friend had, mentor had given me at the time, as advice. And that's how I let go. And that's how I figured out, well, you know, or came into, not for, I would say I became fully aware of what was going
Yeah.
on. And
We're in denial the whole time.
exactly. And so when you see somebody in that situation, you say, well, why don't you just leave? Understand that, you know, there's a whole other emotions at play. There's other factors, you know, there's love on our end. There could be children involved. There's, you know, there's so many other factors. It's not as simple as you need to just leave, because there's so many stuff at play, plus there's
Yeah.
safety at play.
For sure. And I mean, statistically, I don't think there's any argument, but the most dangerous time for someone leaving an abusive relationship, or someone in an abusive relationship, is right when they leave.
Exactly. And
because that person has now finally lost, they no longer have control over you. And what do people do when they lose control? They freak out to regain it in any means possible.
Yeah, and I'll go into my personal story right then and there. When I left that that relationship, there was the threat on my life, his life, and it was very real, and the rage there on his part. And he admitted to me years later that that's what he was going to do that night. So I can personally say, and I'm sure most of us, almost all of us in that situation can say, just leaving is very difficult. There's very real danger for the person involved. And, you know, what we're saying with people not believing us, sometimes our safety in consideration. Really, the best thing for family members, for the purpose of this book, is how to be there for somebody.
Yeah.
So know that this time in a relationship for somebody leaving is the most dangerous time. So work with them and creating a safety plan to leave.
The most helpful thing that I did, and that I've recommended to so many people, is to connect with your local women's shelter.
Yes.
They understand what's going on. They understand how the abuse happens, and all of the way that you're thinking, and he or she, because it could be female too, but the abuser's thinking and the victim person is thinking, and they can actually help you create a plan. And if it's not time to leave, then they can help you find ways to be more safe, or ways that you can get your ducks in a row, so to say, so that when you are ready to leave, that you can pick up and go, that there's a safe place for you, that you have all the documentation that you need, and they can send you to other resources to help you and your kids through the process. It's an amazing thing to ask for help. We talked about it earlier, about asking for help.
Yeah.
Like, I get really passionate about this because I know what it means to not feel like you can ask for help. The fact is, let me just ask you this. When you don't ask people for help, you are actually preventing the people who love you from doing the one thing that they can do. They want to help you and support you. And if you do not let them know, don't think that they can't feel that there's something wrong. that they aren't aware, because they are. And they're hurting too, because they know you're hurting. The most healing comes from connection, right? You know this. This is why, this is what this book is about. It's about us sharing our stories so we can connect with you, so that you can have a piece of our healing for yours.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. That's exactly
if I never told anyone my story, I know there's people out there who wouldn't be on the path they're on. I know I've affected people's lives. The first one's my kid.
Yeah.
But outside of my kid, like, I have friends, I have clients, I have people in different places in the world who have gone ahead and started changing their lives because I put my hand up and said, it happened to me too.
Yep.
And that's why we did this.
Yeah, it was to reach out with people that we know in our communities, but beyond as well.
Yeah.
That's the main purpose is, as international bestseller is a nice cherry on top, but for my case was people getting out there, like people to know my story, to help somebody, to help somebody feel less alone, to help them get out of a situation, to help them, to help whatever they get out of the story. Whether it's them, in my case, I touch on a mental health component. And whatnot. And so it's just, that's exactly, we grow, we heal from connection. Right? We're a species that thrive on connection. We are a big giant community. We're not meant to be just on our own and
no.
whatnot. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We are here to, we are here to be with each other and to enjoy the time that we have on this while we're alive, and to make it good for ourselves and for people around and whatnot. So
I agree.
So Cheryl, what are some other professional projects? I know you got some cool stuff coming up that you're doing or planning to do in the near future. Guys, she actually has some really cool stuff, but I'll let you go in.
Well, just Monday, so today's Wednesday, just Monday, I did my first public speaking event. So I've done workshops and all of those things before, but this one was like, when you go and give a talk. It was called, it's Mo Mondays. So hopefully some of you out there have actually heard of Mo Mondays, because they're in many cities all over, at least North America, I'm pretty sure. So what it is, it's a motivational speaking event on one Monday every month. I went to the one that was close to me, and that was amazing. Apparently something just fell off the fridge, so that's cool. Someone else thought it was amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was really good, because I know that there were several people in the audience that came up to me after that I'd really connected with, and exactly the reason why I did it. So that's just kind of getting the story out there. A little bit different story, but still same topic. And then the other thing I'm putting together right now actually is a webinar. So I'm working on a webinar that's going to be out soon. I haven't picked the date yet, but if you drop a comment below or whatever, come to my Facebook and add me, then I'll include you when we've got the date set. But what it's about is talking about trauma and how trauma actually affects us on a physical, mental, and emotional level. So how it manifests in our body, and how it actually gets stuck, because our emotions can get stuck in our body, and how to release those things. So of course, not only are we going to talk about trauma, not just domestic violence, but there's other types of trauma, military trauma and school shootings and horrific car accidents. That kind of thing. I've been talking to a couple of people who work in the medical community. So think of the accidents and those kind of things that they're exposed to. So talking about how trauma manifests in our body, how our body changes our actual behaviors and our neurology because of that trauma, especially in repeated trauma, which is domestic violence is a repeated trauma, and how it can cause you to go into things like panic attacks and like continuous low mood, and just kind of that state of feeling less and all that, and what we can do about moving you through that. What are the options to get you out of feeling that way? And some of them will be stuff that I do, and some of them will be other cool stuff that you can investigate on your own.
Cool. And to touching on that with like, trauma and mental health component,
Mm-hmm.
You're, in my personal case, it used to be, well, even recently, triggers will come up and my body will go right back into that fight or flight mode. And
That's exactly what we're talking about, the fight or flight.
And that's how it would affect you physically. So what Cheryl would be doing would be stopping that reaction.
Yeah.
Getting that out.
Exactly. In fact, there's one more reaction. It's called freeze. And that was my reaction the one that I got triggered in was the freeze reaction, which is basically deer in a headlights, not being able to move.
Exactly.
So I'll definitely talk to you guys about that one, but that's basically the responses that we're talking about.
Yeah. Just responses that aren't conducive to health.
No, that the things that happen to your body. Yeah, so that's something I'm working on, and I'll get out there. I've got, a Facebook group and a website where you could connect with me to get some more information, or you could just, send me a message underneath, a little comment.
Oh, you guys, for those of you, I usually write a blog post about the person, so this will be included in the blog post.
Yay!
You can see how you can connect with Cheryl, and if you're interested in learning more about what she does with NLP, whatnot, you can connect with her through the blog, or Facebook and whatnot, or you can always ask me and I can direct you to her.
Yeah.
There's so many ways.
Yeah, I've also got a community of right now. It's a small community. It's growing, of women who've been in domestic violence situations. The caveat to be in that group is, one, that you're no longer in the situation, and two, that you are working on your own growth to come out of it. So it's more of an inspirational growth group. So
cool.
I'm going to add you to them because I know you're in already. I can see it on your face. She's like, hey, where's my invite?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. Well, cool. What is it called? I'm curious now.
It's called Breaking Free.
Breaking Free. Okay, yeah, definitely add me. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So neat. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, so it's a private group. You wouldn't be able to find it. So if that's something you want to be in, it's exclusively for women.
Okay.
And that is to create a safe space for people to share. No, it's not specifically gender inclusive or whatever that term is. Just because of the nature of the group, that it's there to be a safe space.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, that's awesome. Okay, well, Cheryl, would you be able to give us just kind of a brief synopsis? I think we've kind of touched on that. We kind of touched on everything a little bit.
Well, we had a good conversation.
Exactly. Good conversation and whatnot. So, sorry, I'll restart that again. Would you be able to give the readers just a brief chapter and what you would like the readers to really take home today from viewing this?
Like I said before, the chapter is basically my story. It's what happened to me, what I was thinking and feeling, all those things that were going through my head, and what I've done since the abuse ended and since I got myself out of that situation, how I've worked on myself and gotten to the point where I am now helping other people. So that's the story. What was the other part of the question there, Em?
It was, what would you like the readers to take away?
The takeaway. The takeaway basically is this: you're not alone. There are many of us out there, and we want you to know that there are people out there who can relate to what you've been through, who honor you for who you are and the fight that you've had in you, and that there are people that will support you. And if it's not the people that are around you, then you welcome to reach out to people like us who will be there and help you through it and point you to resources to help you out. I've been doing that a lot lately, even when, I'm not the one who can help you, but here's this link. Talk to these people. And the last part is for people who are willing to speak their own story. Because the power of healing comes from speaking your story, and speaking your story to someone else is the power of helping to heal them. So it's kind of a call out.
Yep.
To call out those who are willing to stand up and become leaders to help others. Like, I don't want to do this by myself. It's not, I'll do it. But I want others to come with me, because it's the amplification. Like, how many more people can we connect to and help in any way? So that's the message that I want out there.
Yeah. And, going back, helping, like, all working together, as mentioned earlier, we're a community of people. Yeah. That's how we survived centuries before, was relying on each other. Yeah. And that's fundamental.
Human behavior.
So only reach out to, those viewing, reach out to, myself, Cheryl, whether and don't know that you're not alone. Know that, even if we're not able to give you or to help you in certain ways, we do know resources.
Yep.
And definitely, as you were saying, we'll refer and whatnot. And that's, I think, very much what both want to emphasize is you're not alone. Within a domestic violence, that mental health and whatnot, you are definitely not alone, and things do definitely get better.
Absolutely.
And that's a given.
You get to be we got to be best-selling authors.
Exactly.
That's kind of good.
Exactly. We've, both me and her have done some amazing things in life. So
yeah. And all the people that we've already helped already, just like, it's amazing. Like, when you think about the people that we've helped just in this little short time.
Yeah.
And how many more people we are going to have a piece in helping.
Exactly.
Right. And even sharing, like, hey, if you got the book and this doesn't resonate with you, like, who can you pass the book on to?
Yeah.
Or, like, I've had several people who've said, I'm buying your book for, this person in my family or my friend who really needs to read this story. I resonate with the story because you wrote it, but I know somebody who this is going to help. Yeah. Right. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I know somebody who, there you go. Know somebody who knows somebody.
We all know somebody.
We all know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. 6 degrees of separation there. But yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining me on this chat today. Is there anything else you would like to say before we finish up?
I wanted to say thank you to you for inviting me and honoring what I can contribute to your following, your people, and connect me with them as well, because, hey, I love getting to know more people and all that. And to all of our authors, who I know some of them are going to catch this video, for sharing your story and being brave and putting it out there, because it's not an easy thing, but we did it, all of us together. So congrats, ladies. Putting it out there.
But thank you so much for that as well.
Yeah, like, it wasn't an easy thing. It's not like we were writing about rainbows and unicorns and all that stuff.
No.
So
and it's not phobia.
Tough topics that we hit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I think just to thank you for getting to the end of this video, because obviously if you got to the end of this video, then you appreciated what we were talking about today, and invite you to come and connect with me if you haven't already, and And if you're one of my friends, then connect with M, because we're a team.
We're badasses.
Badass women. Woohoo!
Badass Women's Wednesdays. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Connect with me if you're Cheryl's friend, vice versa, or however you know us or don't know us, or
My friends know all my friends are awesome. So
there, exactly.
they just know if I'm friends with someone else, they must be awesome too.
Exactly. Same vice versa. So there we go.
Or badass, whatever. Depends
Badass.
on your definition. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for this today, and again for joining. And I'm so honored to know you and be on this journey with you, and to call you a friend. Thank you for the help the other day as well.
No problem. My pleasure.
And take care and have a great evening.
Oh, we're going camping tomorrow, so I'm excited.
Oh, that sounds so.
So it's a night of packing.
Maybe I'll join you. I'll just tell my boss. I'm gonna work because sometimes I can work remotely. But if there's Wi-Fi issues, because I'm out in the middle of the lake, it's not.
That would be awesome, but yeah, I'm sure you won't get a lot work done.
No. Probably not. All right, well, have an amazing camping trip.
I will.
Everybody, this will be posted on my blog on YouTube.
Awesome.
And whatnot. And again, everything that Cheryl talked about will be in the thing. So you have in my blog post about her. So
you got lots of writing to do, girl.
I know. And so this will be out. And thank you, everybody who's been viewing these Badass Women's Wednesdays. And thank you, Cheryl and whatnot. And yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great evening.
Bye. Have a great evening too. Good night.
Good night.